Kent, United Kingdom. Molly McLaren's nightmare: how a Tinder match turned into a deadly obsession. Molly McLaren was a beloved and ambitious young woman who had overcome life's challenges and was working hard to build a bright future. But her promising life was cut short as a result of being stalked by her ex-boyfriend after an ill-fated encounter on the Tinder dating app. At just 23 years old, Molly was a student at the University of Kent, surrounded by a loving family and loyal friends. She was excelling academically and was quite popular on social media. Her dream was to build a career as a personal trainer and have a positive impact on people's lives. As a teenager, Molly had struggled with anxiety and eating disorders, but she worked diligently to overcome them, prioritizing her mental and physical health. She aimed to help others who were going through the same challenges she had faced, sharing knowledge and resources. Those close to her described Molly as a beacon of positivity, fun, and kindness, illuminating the lives of everyone she met. The tragic events unfolded in Kent, a popular tourist destination known for its picturesque landscapes and considered one of the 10 most affluent counties in England. With its charming fields and natural beauty, Kent is affectionately referred to as the Garden of England. As a student, Molly was an active user of Tinder, the most well-known online dating app, especially popular among single people. It offered a quick and easy way to meet someone new. Molly had used the app numerous times before, but her relationships had never lasted longer than 6 months. However, in June 2016, this pattern changed. While browsing through potential partners' profiles, Molly came across the profile of 25-year-old Joshua Stimpson, a warehouse worker with striking eyes who had grown up in Stoke-on-Trent, but was living just 9 miles away from her at the time. They immediately connected and began openly sharing personal details about their lives. Joshua told Molly that he had been struggling with bipolar disorder his entire life. The young woman felt a kinship, sharing her own experiences with anxiety and eating disorders. Molly was touched by the pain Joshua had gone through and felt an overwhelming desire to support him. After all, her calling was to help others who were suffering like she had, and the attraction between them was too strong to ignore. It seemed as if they had known each other their whole lives. Molly even suggested pretending they had been acquainted for much longer than a few days. The couple began communicating intensively on social media, and after a couple of months, they had their first date. By that point, they were so enamored with each other that passion instantly ignited when they met in person. Molly introduced Joshua to her parents, but they greeted him without much enthusiasm. Her mother was troubled by the fact that the young man had bipolar disorder. She feared it would drag Molly back into the dark place she had managed to overcome. Nevertheless, she supported her daughter's choice, believing she was mature enough for a serious relationship. Initially, Joshua seemed like the perfect boyfriend, and the couple appeared genuinely loving and inseparable. But the fairy tale was short-lived. After returning to reality following the honeymoon phase, Molly realized that she wanted to build a life in which Joshua would be an important part, but not one that would completely dominate her. Unfortunately, he had other plans. Over time, Joshua became increasingly controlling and domineering, demanding to always know where Molly was, where she was going, and what she was doing. He was obsessed with the idea of spending every minute together and even quit his job so that nothing would keep them apart. He would show up even when Molly was busy with her studies, causing her to become deeply disappointed with the relationship. The young woman had only just managed to gain control over her mental and physical well-being, and now she wanted to maintain that balance independently, not be dictated to by her boyfriend. But Molly was aware of Joshua's fragile state and couldn't bring herself to end the relationship, despite her growing unease. In April 2017, the situation escalated. Molly discovered that Joshua had been secretly photographing and videotaping her. This left her feeling violated and completely stripped of control over her own body. Confused and distraught, she turned to her mother for advice. Later, Mrs. McLaren would recall that during this period, Joshua remained incredibly calm and collected. He showed no remorse for his actions and didn't even believe he had done anything wrong. By June 2017, Molly's patience had run out. She was exhausted by the constant arguments, mistrust, and Joshua's insecurity. Initially, the young woman had dreamed of a genuine, loving relationship, but now it felt more like a prison sentence. Eventually, at a belated birthday celebration, Molly told Joshua that it was over between them. He reacted extremely negatively, crying and yelling in front of her friends. However, she felt relieved to be rid of a partner who had been controlling her every move. But the nightmare was far from over. Joshua acted vindictively, posting stolen photos and videos of Molly on social media, accompanied by shameful accusations of drug use and insults. The scandal escalated to the point of police involvement. Law enforcement's strategy was to scare Joshua into leaving the young woman alone. An officer called him in the presence of Molly and her mother, putting the phone on speaker. The policeman warned that if the harassment continued, Joshua would face criminal charges. However, the response was chilling. They'll have to deal with something worse. Fortunately, the station later informed them that Stimpson had agreed to remove the posts, fearing his new employer would discover his slanderous online activity. Molly was able to breathe a sigh of relief, hoping the horrific ordeal had finally ended. Trying to return to her normal life, she went to the Ship and Trades bar with her friends to celebrate enrolling in a personal training course. But to the group's surprise, at one point none other than Joshua Stimpson walked in, arm in arm with a new girlfriend. He haughtily strode past as an outraged Molly called him a bastard. The girls wondered how Joshua had found out about their location, but quickly realized they had posted a check-in at the bar a few hours earlier. Was he still stalking her? Her friends noticed Stimpson pacing around alone, intently watching them from the smoking area, even though he didn't smoke. Luckily, the group managed to leave safely. Molly tried to put the unpleasant incident out of her mind, understanding that breakups are often messy and people can be immature. On the morning of June 29th, Molly continued her attempts to return to her usual routine. At 10 a.m., she arrived at her local gym, intending to start the day with a workout. Soon, the security cameras captured Joshua following her into the building. He positioned himself next to her in the empty training room. Molly immediately texted her mother, saying she was alone with her ex. Alarmed, Mrs. McLaren called her daughter and told her to leave immediately without looking back. Molly obeyed. She quickly gathered her things and headed to her car, complaining to her friends that she constantly had to look over her shoulder. Unfortunately, this would be her last message. Shortly after, the police arrived at the gym parking lot and discovered a horrific scene, more reminiscent of a horror movie. Numerous passers-by had witnessed the brutal attack on Molly. Her car door was wide open, and her body was covered in approximately 75 stab wounds. Benjamin Morton tried to stop the killer, prevent him from fleeing, and render first aid to the victim, but to no avail. At 11:40 a.m., paramedics pronounced Molly dead from a neck injury. The attacker calmly approached the police officers, wiping blood spatter from his face, and inquired, "You wanted to see me?" To the horror of the law enforcement officials, it turned out to be Joshua Stimpson, the subject of their recent phone warning. He admitted to the crime without resistance, but claimed the murder was not premeditated. According to Joshua, he had become so unhinged by Molly's rejection that he saw no other way out than to take revenge by taking her life. The defense insisted that this radical act was the result of mental illness, an inability to cope with the pain. They argued that Joshua had been deeply affected by his parents' divorce and his mother's subsequent abandonment. And throughout his life, he had frequently been admitted to psychiatric clinics, trying to deal with his hypersensitivity to rejection and personality disorder. With these arguments, the lawyers sought to prove that Joshua did not possess the necessary mental capacity to plan the crime, and that his actions did not fall within the scope of normal cognition. But the prosecution presented irrefutable counter-arguments. Camera footage showed that Stimpson had purchased the knife used to kill Molly a couple of days before the tragedy. Moreover, if he had been so crazed by pain, why had he waited several weeks before carrying out the attack? Nothing indicated the spontaneity of an assault committed in the heat of passion. However, the question of Joshua's sanity remained crucial. The prosecutors invited an independent psychiatrist to provide an assessment. After conducting an evaluation, The expert found no signs of a personality disorder or other mental defect in the defendant. On the contrary, he suggested that Stimpson exhibited narcissistic traits and his behavior was not burdened by remorse. By the time of the closing arguments, the jury faced a difficult decision. Molly's family and friends must have been consumed by anxiety as they awaited the verdict. But just 3 hours after deliberations began, the panel reached a unanimous decision. Amid joyful exclamations and tears of relief from the victim's loved ones, Joshua Stimpson was found guilty of the premeditated, brutal murder of Molly McLaren. Judge Adele Williams sentenced him to life in prison with the possibility of parole after a minimum of 26 years. She warned that Joshua might remain behind bars forever, as he posed an extreme danger to women. The judge emphasized that no one would be safe as long as he was roaming free. Molly's family issued an official statement, thanking the eyewitnesses for their courage and attempts to save the young woman's life. Regarding the sentence, they noted that while it brought them some small comfort, they would likely never come to terms with their irreplaceable loss. The McLarens were condemned to a lifetime of suffering and grief. Now their primary goal was to honor Molly's memory through a charitable foundation established in her name. This organization was created to further Molly's dream of helping people struggling with eating disorders. Every year, the foundation holds large-scale events with games, treats, and entertainment, raising funds to support relevant charitable initiatives. Since its inception, it has managed to attract over £30,000 for the causes Molly wanted to dedicate her life to, promoting positive thinking, self-confidence, and change. Molly was taken too soon, but the light of her beautiful soul continues to shine in the hearts of all who knew her. Her memory will live on through the good works of the charitable foundation established by her family. And the shocking story of her death at the hands of an obsessed ex-boyfriend will serve as a cautionary tale, drawing society's attention to the issue of stalking. Ultimately, the tragedy of Molly McLaren will become a beacon, pointing the way to change. Thank you for watching this video. Write your opinion in the comments, and also do not forget to put a like if you like this story. Take care of yourself and your loved ones,